I want to tell you a little bit of a story about operational learning. I was spending time within an organization doing these wonky things that we call learning explorations. Think hit and run learning teams, one session going out, listening, asking better questions, looking for starting points for deeper learning and exploration, where we would use something like a learning team. As I worked my way through this organization, group to group, department to department, there was one particular pain point that continued to come up over and over and over and over on repeat.
If you know anything about me by this point, you know that I'm kind of obsessed with pain points. Pain points are starting points. Pain points are starting points. They lead you to rock that is often buried deep, deep, deep beneath the surface. Pain points are starting points. They lead you to learning and improvement that is buried deep beneath the surface. Pain points are gifts from heaven because they're usually our opportunity to learn and improve pre-event.
When I hear pain, I get super duper duper curious. What was this pain point? Pre-job briefs. Pre-job briefs, PJBs, task safety analysis. Take 5, fill out this checklist and scratch your belly before you go to work, pat your head twice for good luck. You know what I'm talking about, no matter what we call it. That pre-task safety paperwork, conversation, something or another. Now, hearing these pain points on repeat throughout this organization, we decided to do some learning teams. Not just one, but several. Did several learning teams with those nearest to the work, those that actually use this process, this pre-job brief process. We also did several with leaders up through the organization because leaders really loved this process. They liked it, they loved it, they had to have more of it. And we also did a learning team with those who had historically controlled this process, this form. This was a safety something, so who creates safety somethings? Safety people. The first thing that I really want to highlight with you is a lot of what people agreed upon throughout these groups, across these learning teams. Everyone agreed on the importance of these conversations. They found them to be valuable, the conversation itself. But that's just about the last thing that they agreed on. Spending time with those end users of this process, the very first thing that they did was pull out the procedure.
Pull out the procedure. I mean that they
pulled out the procedure. It was like 80 pages long.
80 pages long? WTF?
80 pages long.
They flipped it over, shaking the ground when they did so, knocking values and trust me posters off the wall, coffee cups, whipped wine. They counted 1, 2, 3, 4 pages off the back. Ripped those pages out and said, here's our form. It was a 4-page form, chock full of everything imaginable. Almost 100 check boxes alone.
It was like 89 or 90, but that's 100 in my book. Around, that's 100.
And then from there were boxes, big open boxes for creative safety writing. And draw me a picture of how you feel about safety today, and on and on. And on top of that, everyone else that had anything of any significance within the organization had borrowed real estate on this form: quality, environmental, security, and more.
I'm starting to understand the pain points.
They described to me how they had to do these forever and always. At a minimum, they had to do them once per shift. But if things changed, they had to stop and do one again. And if
things changed again, they had to stop and do it again. And if things changed again, they had to stop and do it again. And if things changed again, they had to stop and do it again. And if things changed again, they had to stop and do it again. And if things changed again, they had to stop and do it again.
Also told me how if I went out to work by myself, I had to do one of these pre-job briefs with myself. And then in all of these cases, I had to carry that with me, just in case someone stopped me and asked me for it. And then when I was done for the day, I would give these to my supervisor, and they would live in my supervisor's desk forever and until the end of time.
Just in case somebody asked for it.
This group was super transparent, and they shared with me that they became master counterfeiters. They would pre-fill out these forms and copy them, so then they could just sign them and date them, and then go have the real conversation, the meaningful conversation, before they would go to work. In the sessions with leadership, they found these forms to be super valuable to safety. They counted them, they measured them, people were doing them. They had 100% compliance. They really appreciated these forms because it was something that they could see. When they would go out and talk to folks doing work, they could ask them for it, and they could whip it out, and they could show it to them, and they could look at it, and they could say, oh, great penmanship. Oh, you checked all the boxes. Good job. Safety is here. They could see it. Safety is hard to see. It's impossible, really, to see the invisible actions that people take each and every day, navigating their way through the work world that surrounds them, creating safety on the fly. But this form was not so invisible. We could see this form, we could ask for it, we could count it, we could measure it, we could even put a percentage on our compliance. Spending time with our safety folks, the form was great, everybody loved it. And it really was just no one had told them otherwise. There was compliance demands from above. Thou shalt be met. The employees created workarounds so we could meet those compliance demands and still get our work done. And our safety folks were none the wiser. No one told us otherwise. It's perfect. Everybody loves it. This organization found itself with a process, a form, a procedure that looked good. It met all the corporate check boxes. It looked good. It smelled good. It was easy to measure. It felt good. We could even put them into Excel spreadsheets.
Fancy Excel spreadsheets. Spreadsheets that change colors, red, yellow, green, based on how many of these we did. You know, those spreadsheets where they're never allowed to be red or yellow, only green. Green is the only acceptable answer.
A process that felt good, looked good, and was totally, completely, and totally useless. So from these learning teams, they had a pretty straightforward and simple idea. Let's take some of the folks that have to use this process and the folks that had historically controlled the process, our safety folks, and let's put them into little teams and have them come up with their best version of what this process should look like. And they did just that, working in these little teams. They all came up with something that they were proud of, something that they would use, something that they wanted to use. They brought all of these forms together and compiled all these good ideas into one something. One thing that they agreed was their best work. One thing that they agreed was it. They didn't just take this new form and this tweaked process and throw it out into their organization. They put it in the hands of more people that had to use it. And they encouraged folks. Redline it, mark it up, break it, show me where it doesn't work, send it back with some feedback. And people did just that. These forms would come in covered in scribbles and notes and circles and exclamation points. Things that sounded like, is that even a question? What do you want me to write? Yes? That's kind of dumb. Holy crap, do we still have to talk about PPE? I mean, come on. I basically live and sleep in my boots and my hard hats and my gloves. Can we talk about something a bit more interesting here? And on and on. They took the form that they started with, their best effort. They made it better through micro-experimenting, through getting it in the hands of folks that had to use it. And then, and only then, did they take it to scale within their organization. Now, we could debate the effectiveness of pre-job briefs, pre-task safety analysis.
Take fives. TSAs, this, that, the other.
We could debate that all day long. And many of you probably can guess some of my personal feelings on the effectiveness of these processes. But let's take a look at what really happened. This organization started with a form and a procedure. A form, a process, a procedure that looked good, it smelled good, it tasted good, and was completely freaking useless to those that actually had to use it. A form that was resulting in pain, lots of pain and frustration. And at the very least, whether we find them or think them to be all that effective, they created something that was useful to them, something that they were proud of, something that they wanted to use in their work world. Now, I can tell you that it wasn't 4 pages long anymore. It was about a page, and in fact, I think they upped the font and stretched everything out. And I don't know if they quite thought that they could get away with just half a page. It wasn't questions about, are your shoes tied? Do you have your hard hat on? Did you tell Bob to pay more attention? It was about half a page of really useful, valuable information to those that had to do the work. Where they landed, it sounded more like,
What's the stuff that can actually kill us in this job? How do we not die? Yeah, life-saving controls, safeguards. Are those in place? Have we verified those? Are those enough? Is there anything else that's really important to this work? Yeah, stuff like environmental and quality and other things.
was a few really powerful, valuable questions to those that actually had to do the work. Long gone were the 100 check boxes. Long gone were the 4 pages. That's the story of operational learning. That's the story of starting with the pain point of going out and deliberately seeking out opportunities to learn more, discovering those, in this case, pain points, and then digging deep and finding improvement strategies through a tool like a learning team. And then micro-experimenting and trying out those ideas and tweaking them and making them better before we took them to scale. This is the story. This is how operational learning plays out within our organizations.